Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, Level 2, Lesson 9. First of all, I want to be clear, and I want you to say, Aurora, I thought today we were supposed to be doing Lesson 8. What's up with you skipping Lesson 8 of Level 2? Because I know you're all incredibly astute. And the answer is that I did not want to do Lesson 8 because as I was going over it last night, I was like, oh, this lesson is ripe for misinterpretation. So lesson 8 is called Loving All Aspects of Self, and it has to do with an explanation of various different personality characteristics as it is represented from different star cultures, heritage of what's going on in our solar system, and basically a sharing about compassion and nonviolence in the face of beings that are incredibly different than you. However, it does not emphasize enough a basic point of coexistence amidst various levels of consciousness in the one-room schoolhouse of the cosmos, which is the basic teaching that you have free will and you have the right not to be murdered and raped. So although it is truthful that if you meet a different aspect of self that is moving at a vastly different rate of time and may have had vastly different experiences, different value system, and may be violent or want to rape you or want to destroy you in any of those things, the lesson as I had it in the level 2 recording from many years ago, I think was, as I said, ripe for misinterpretation in the sense that it would make you think that you had to somehow totally accept everything as a reflected inner aspect of self and allow it to do violence to self, when that is completely not what I'm trying to say. So rather than go over that teaching in such a that I feel can be so misinterpreted and is so inadequate, I want to do harmonics, and harmonics and this teaching about the solar system does relate to, hi, welcome, welcome, welcome. Doing a little bit of housekeeping here, explaining why I'm jumping over lesson 8, because I think it is extremely flawed in my presentation from 2014, and to really clarify about what is going on in terms of externalized inner aspects of self that need to be helped, healed, and rectified. Oh, let me mute you guys. Let me mute you, not because I don't love you, but because it really does help. There we go, in the sense of having a pristine audio here. Yes, how to recognize the understanding of externalized inner features that need help and healing, as opposed to, there are some things also that are completely not internal, that are pre-existing and that have nothing to do with you as an individuated being. And that can be understood as not everything is actually an aspect of yourself. Hold on a moment. I'll just make this a very, very brief aside because it's a little bit of an aside from everything I want to focus on today. But when people do shadow work, what they do sometimes as a blanket acceptance is say, everything out there originates from in here. But the truth is that you, as your individuated presence right now, come into a context where many of these diseases, evils, imbalances, fragmented thoughts, negative thoughts, things that need healing, occupiers of the membrane of death, a lot of them have been grandfathered in and pre-exist your own existence. So you're dealing with a lot of things that actually don't all emanate from inside of you. And then you are dealing with some things that are not negative inverse shadow presences, but which are pure fabrications. And it takes an enormous amount of insight in your literal eye within, the great teacher within, to really show you these things are your own shadow and you need to learn to love and accept them, as opposed to these things over here are crapola that predates you and has nothing to do with you personally and are aberrations that simply should not exist. So in this world that we're in right now, there are many, many consciousness aberrations that should not exist, many, many things that I don't want you to internalize and say, oh, that's me, I love you and accept you, like come to mama, I love and accept you. Like I'm being extremely facetious here. No, no, no. So lesson 8, incredibly flawed. Don't internalize it too much. And lesson 9, I'm going to get on to, this stuff is all about in reference to lesson 18 from level 1 and other things about our solar system. First, let me also say, I'm going to do a little bit of work with this. This is my beautiful harmonic instrument that is tuned to 432 hertz. My only challenge is Zoom has a compression feature on the audio, so that if you do something loud, like clap your hands, then immediately afterwards, so Zoom calibrates to that, immediately drops the audio because that's a loud thing, and then it takes a minute for it to recalibrate. So on here, you mostly hear the clang and not that much the subtle vibrations afterwards. So please understand that what I'm experiencing and hearing is much more rich and varied, and I want you to be able to hear it too. It is, there's an initial hard striking of the metal bars, but then there are these beautiful subtle harmonics. Let me start off with some beautiful subtle harmonics. Listen as best you can, use your imagination. I'm starting with C, That's a C on my piano and goes up to C on here. So I'm starting with the low C over here and moving up to a high C up here. Okay, first I'm just gonna play a regular scale. Now, I don't know how much you can hear it on this and on your Zoom video, but what you should hear after that is all of those wah-wah-wahs. What you're actually getting here are laterally vibrating sound waves, sound waves, sound waves, sound waves, laterally vibrating, 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 and that what they are doing is creating these harmonic superstructures. This is all about today about harmonics, cymatics, and the way that waves structure matter in the cosmos. We can also do a little bit of vocal toning if you want to. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, up to white, or with the vowel sounds like Trish and I have been teaching everyone. Ooh, oh, ah, I, a, e, 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 all of that is relating to, let me just do a little bit, wait, where's my thing? Because things work better when I use my magical trackpad. If I go to share screen and just go to any of these basic pictures of the chakras, here's a good one. Oh my goodness, that's my little dog getting scared because there's a kitty cat walking by, because now we have kitty cat participants in our household. I have this highlighted. This is part of our homework. We're going to get going on understanding the harmonic interactions between your different chakras. It's very exciting. But singing up the chakras, ooh, oh, ah, I, a, e. Got it? Singing up the chakras, each chakra having a representative note, a representative vowel sound, and a representative harmonic frequency. Okay, and I'm going to just do lots and lots of jumping all over the place here. And I do have extensive notes. Hold on a second. Get up with my notes over here. And I'm going to play on the piano too. So when I refer to lesson 18, it is lesson 18 of level 1, which is all about galactic history. And it's all about, I want to say, the mess we're in, but I don't want to be a downer. I don't want to be depressing to you. And so when I used to teach level 1, I used to always be like, level 18, we're going to get up to lesson 18. We're going to get up to lesson 18, guys. And everyone was always like, lesson 18, what's lesson 18? Like it became this big boogeyman. It's nothing more than the story of mortality. It's nothing more than the story of the horrific trauma that has happened in terms of our planetary structure being degraded, Earth's chakras being degraded, your own individual chakras being degraded. So there was a planetary invasion a long time ago, or in a concurrent world. The way that you look at time concurrently, that planetary invasion is ongoing in the realm of Atlantis or the antediluvian worlds, even at the same time that we are experiencing a planetary invasion in this time space here now in terms of nanotechnology and what I would call satanic infrastructure, satanic being loosely biblical, referential, or allegorical, but in more accurate terms, referring to those beings who are space races who use technology, as opposed to my Aurora Collective and many, many other space races whom do not use technology, who are just completely connected to the divine presence, and biological architecture, naturally occurring harmonic patterns, naturally occurring energy, Christ consciousness, the meta consciousness that is beyond human experience and incorporates human experience along with a facet of multifaceted experience of many, many other organisms in different time places, all of that being incredibly more powerful and present than anything that utilizes or recognizes technology. Technology being a compensatory mode for those who are inadequate. So what is harmonics? Harmonics is where's my, this, so that I can pull things up properly. Harmonics is the set of rules that governs, let me read this again. Harmonics is the set of rules that governs the patterns of waves as energy flows in the cosmos. Do a nice little share screen for you here. Move this away. This is homework I was just showing you. This is a good example of harmonics. So this is that glass painting, died a horrible, sad death one day. got broken into many, many pieces, but it's a perfect, I have photographs, and it is a perfect example of the nested, harmonic, and fractal nature of the chakras of your body. So you guys are totally experienced listeners, learners in this class at this point. You recognize that each one of these represents a chakra. They are mostly nested together, but here they are deconstructed like the Russian or Ukrainian matryoshka dolls that nest within one another, that each one of these is fractal and self-similar. There are 7 major layers, and within each layer, there are 7 sub-layers. Let me go to the piano. The piano is a perfect example of harmonics. So an octave means 8. Octo means 8, like octopus has 8 arms. Octo means 8. We begin on the human musical system, understanding that we begin with the note arbitrarily, C. That's a C. And we move through 8 notes, which is an octave, all the way back up to C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. On your body, you're starting with red, the root chakra, orange, the emotional realm of mammals, yellow, the solar plexus, intellect, green, the level of unconditional love in my heart, blue, the level of truth, indigo, the level of pure insight, violet, the level of my crown, and then back up to white light. So on the piano, it keeps on going back up to C. But on your body being, you have an octave that is the human octave, the slice of the frequency pi that we define as human, below which is not human, above which is superhuman. Super meaning superior, meaning of that which is above human. So right now we are in a refinery of consciousness. Hello, welcome, rainbow body. I'm so happy to see you here. Refinery of consciousness. As we start off at a particular level or orientation or vector with our soul presence, which is your soul is, class, you're smart, answer internally. Trajectory through time. Your soul is your trajectory through time, the story of where you've been and the story of where you're going. So you've been doing all this stuff, and now you're starting off at this angle, and in the soul refinery, you twist around and around and around and around and around, doing this dance until you are ready to ascend, which is becoming in that perfect alignment state with the central core timeline, which means that you will be able to return to that convergence point. Grab my sculpture. It's delicate, so I don't keep it here on the table. Convergence point. The convergence point, which is the center of this sculpture. So this is a good example, a 3-dimensional example of what your chakra system is shaped like before you flying rainbow lasagna it. This convergence point over here is the source. It is the destination. It is the 0th dimension. It is the place that emanates your consciousness. It is the place where your consciousness returns to. The ascension journey is the realignment with that infinity point, realigning with your eternal timeline. You're in a consciousness refinery factory, for lack of a better word, where you start off at an angle and you get gradually in alignment through your life experiences, parallel life experiences, exploring of the multiplicity of timelines, becoming in greater alignment. Let's talk about all this in terms of harmonics. Let me put this down. Oh, I'll put it down right here, and you can kind of look at it gently. I don't want to damage either thing. The tubes on this are very finely calibrated, and the sculpture itself is very, very delicate. Harmonics. So this is an octave. Let's count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, beautiful. How many chakras do you have? Aurora, I have 7 chakras, but I have 8 notes in an octave. What do I do? Understand that there is a point that's up above your head. That would be white light, the convergence point from which you emanate. That is the 8th note. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, white light. That is actually unity consciousness. Okay, so the human octave involves the 7 primary rays of being. They involve those layers of experience and perception, and the unified wholeness of all of those colors integrating together is white light. Each one of those layers of your being represents energy moving at a different rate through time. Let me show you a time tunnel. Wait, this is what I have here to show you a time tunnel. Oh, and let me get the annotation. So this is, you can see it here. Here we have larger chakras out here and moving inward towards smaller chakras up here. Let me just get a better color. Moving backwards like a time tunnel. Everything that is moving like this, it almost looks like you're looking down a tunnel through perspective. You get it? Like looking down a long telescoping hallway that is foreshortened. What you have here with these smaller chakra circles over here is something that is further away in time. What you have in these larger circles that is over here, closer to you in perspective sense, is something that is closer to you in time. So if I move over to, wait, get rid of the annotations. Can I move over to here? No, hold on a second. I'm going to re-share, go back to a different picture. Hold on, patience, everyone, thank you. This is what I want to show you. Okay. This violet chakra, okay, draw. I want you to go draw this section. This violet chakra that is over here is the furthest away in time from your present standpoint as an observer experiencer in the physical reality structure. So I speak now to the aspect of you that has a physicality structure, that got up, ate breakfast this morning, and is sitting with your posterior on an actual chair, all right? Not talking to your most ephemeral higher self. You, at that level of physicality presence, are the furthest from the infinity point, that infinite source over here, the infinite divine consciousness point, that crossing point, that overlapping zero dimension infinity point. So this violet chakra is the closest of the human octave. It is just touching that infinity point. Let me read from it in my notes. Hold on a second while I come over here to my notes. Violet does not have to, okay, wait. Our connection to the divine source is the furthest away in time because it is the closest to infinity. So violet is our connection to the divine source. It represents the crown chakra. Your crown plugs into God. That is the furthest away from your physicality presence. It is the furthest away from you in terms of where your viewpoint is as an embodied physical material matter experiencing human sitting in a chair. Violet does not have to go very far to reach infinity. It has only entered into the realm of time a tiny microfraction. Get it? Violet, instead of being like all the way out here, coming and slowing itself down and being a part of the physical material world, it has only gone away from God and its essential self a tiny amount. It is literally only sticking one tiny pinky toe into the levels of time and dimensionality, as opposed to these other layers of self, which are successively sticking more and more. Look, I'm sticking my whole leg in, I'm sticking my whole body in. This is me down here at the red level, completely submerged in time. Get it? These are different levels of density, different layers of reality. They are all part of you. They are all part of your own self state. You claim them all as yourself. They are aspects of yourself that are all moving at different rates. So the rate that you have up here where your crown plugs into God is the part of the human octave that is moving at the fastest rate. Hello, Charlie B. Welcome. It is good to see you. All of this goes back to some of the initial teachings from level 1, wavelength versus frequency. What happens with wavelength and frequency? The biggest, longest wavelength structures, harmonic structures, are the slowest in terms of their frequency. Frequency is how fast, how many of them pass a particular point, like whatever, my chin or my necklace. One wave passed here, but how about orange? Orange has 2 waves. 2 waves passed here, it's double the frequency. Yellow is 3 waves, 1, 2, 3 waves, boom, boom, boom. In the same time that it takes for 1 red wave to cross that area, 3 yellow waves can cross that area. 4 green waves can cross that area. 5 throat chakra, blue waves, 6 indigo waves, and 7 violet waves. Hold on one second while I grab something for you, because I'm excited to report to you guys that, oh, hold on, okay, I'll just grab a few. I grabbed some of my little circle templates. Okay, so those of you who are in my class and received my email list know that I invited you, if you wanted, to get your own sets of circle templates to make the homework drawings much easier. Happy to report I've been in touch with the manufacturer, because it's a laser cutter person that I commissioned to make these for us as class. So the sets are being made, they are on their way, they are being boxed up and sent out to us very soon. So they will probably be here within the next week or so. And so this class is precursor to our drawing homework. You can do the drawing homework with a regular compass, like a type of tool that is shaped like a V. You can do it with drawing templates that make it a lot easier. You could even do it with like a string that has an adjustable, like a string, a thumbtack, and a pencil that's adjustable, anything that you can use to draw different size circles, but that's just hard to do, okay? So I'm happy to report that the circle templates are on their way, and the circle templates exist in these perfect harmonic frequencies. So, okay, I did not come here with math skills in the sense of human math understanding. I came here with intuitive math understanding. And what I did with all of this was understand the harmonic proportions in the way that things fit together perfectly. I should show you on on my shirt. Well, I mean, this is an enlarged version on my shirt or on my pants or on anything that's, you know, in my studio here behind me. There are linear equations that calculate how all of these circles fit together in perfect nested proportional forms. I did not use those formulae. I perceived them intuitively. So for example, I'm setting up 2 different little circle templates here. Here's a 4-inch circle template. You can kind of see it reflected in this light over here. And here's a 2-inch circle template. I can fit 2 2-inch circles inside of 1 4-inch circle. This is the yellow chakra. And then this is the indigo chakra. So there's an interrelationship between these 2 chakras. They are harmonically related. What does harmonics mean? I should start off this whole presentation with that. You know, it's about these laws that govern how things fit together, but what it also really means is, can you see the way that these templates fit together and there's nothing hanging over the edge? I can fit 2 of these 2-inch circles in there perfectly within the boundary of this 4-inch outer perimeter. There's nothing extra hanging over the edge. If I had something extra hanging over the edge, like see how I just made that go outside of the edge there, that would not be a harmonic perfection. So let's go to the piano. On the piano, when we have nested sound waves, they sound good to our ears. It is called music. Let's play some music. Make it louder. Those 2 notes sound good together. Let's play 2 more notes that sound good together. Those notes sound good. That sounds like music. Let's do another one. That sounds a little bit weird. Let's do another one. That sounds good together. Those notes sound good together. Let me play a different chord. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but that's a jazz chord. Another one. Another one. I hope you can hear that through, again, the sound compression that comes from Zoom. Good. All of those things are music. Now I'll play something that's not music. Does that sound good, guys? Do you like that song that I just played? No, it sounds horrible. Another one, a bad one. That sounds terrible. It does not sound like music. That is me just mashing my fist into the keyboard. So what you have in these 2 contrasting examples are organized sound waves, where all of the sound waves, auditory waves that are vibrating the medium of our atmosphere, that reach your ears, that tickle your little hairs inside of your ears in the place that's called the cochlea. Those sound great because they are perfectly nested. They're calibrated to sound good together, as opposed to all of the weird sound waves that are disorganized. They go hither, thither, and yon. They go all over the place. They are not well put together, and they are chaotic. They are not organized. That is the difference between music and just disorganized sound waves. So music and our earthly, cultural, biological, hello Lucy, definition of what is music. Music has different aesthetics from culture to culture. For example, there is a different octave tuning and organization of the distances between notes in Western music as opposed to Eastern music in earthly culture. The Indian sense of octaves from the subcontinent of India and in China, they have different language structure. They have different, oh my goodness, intervals is the name of the word. They have different intervals, and yet they're organized in their culture. We're organized in our culture. So all of these things represent cultural isms or ethnocentrism. That's totally fine. If you went to a different planet, they would have a completely different chakra structure, a completely different musical structure. If you went and interacted with a rock shrimp, I've talked about rock shrimp before. So first of all, they see in a spectrum level, that frequency zone beyond our frequency zone. They create these clappings with their rock shrimp hands that create supersonic bubbles. Supersonic meaning faster than the speed of sound. When the bubbles collapse, they make a faster than sound, like crashing sound. They are making music under the water. They have a different sensory apparatus and organ. They are calibrated differently. They perceive and make music differently. I will get to this question. Let's see what this question says right now. What might be different about the chakra system on another planet? Boom, great question. One thing that's different is it rotating around our sun? Is it part of our solar system, or is it part of, drinking my electrolytes here, is it part of a different star system? Our sun star is calibrated according to a particular Roy G. Biv calibration. It's heavy on the yellow-green. Other stars are weighted more towards blue. Other stars are weighted more towards red. So everything that we are experiencing here under the heliosphere or within the protected energetic envelope or as an emanation of the dream of a particular dreamer that's named Sol, the solar system that we live within, it's their mind. And everything, that's like the great artist. I should rewind. The sun that is the epicenter of our solar system is like an artist in the art studio and is painting various paintings. Each one of those paintings is a harmonic outgrowth. We'll talk about cymatics, organizational principles of matter in the cosmos. And each one of these layers of being also represents a refinement of consciousness. And each one of these orbital rings represents an art project of the sun star that's at the epicenter of our solar system. Not every solar system has 9 planets or whatever. However, we would count the tiny exoplanets, and there are so many fun quibbling forum discussions about whether Pluto is a planet and all these other questions. But you know what I'm talking about. Astronomical bodies. How many astronomical bodies there are. Some solar systems or star systems only contain 2 astronomical bodies. It's like saying that star only parented 2 children, all right? Our star is a consciousness parent to all of the different planets that create the planetary architecture known as our solar system. There are problems in our solar system. So first, I'm jumping around a lot. I knew I would because I'm only referring lightly to my notes today. But I did send out the notes via Patreon. Let's do, okay, first I'm gonna say, here's the sun. I'm only even gonna draw half of it because it's so big it goes off the other side of the page. Now let's draw Mercury. Mercury is the closest and tiniest little rocky planet that is close to the sun. Now let's draw Venus. Here's Venus. We could sing lots of songs that are about Venus. You guys want to go into a song with me? She's got it. Oh, baby, she's got it. And now let's do Earth. The third rock from the sun. You could do the Jimi Hendrix song if you want to. I'm not trying these to scale, even though I'm trying to. And now let's do Mars. Because what I'm trying to show you is these harmonic proportions being represented. Here is the asteroid belt. I'm making some caca-poo-poo over here. That is going along here. Those are asteroid rubbles. Now let's go to Jupiter. Jupiter. Now let's do Saturn. Find a good color for Saturn. Saturn, we're getting into the gas giants. Now we'll do Neptune and Uranus, and they're out here. And we can make a lot of jokes. We'll make Uranus brown. And then we'll go even further, all the way out. I mean, of course, this is not perfect, but even further we're out. Can I move this thing on my screen? Even further out, we're getting over here to Pluto. All right, so this is a very, hastily drawn, not perfect. But what I'm trying to show you is this interval here is short, slightly longer, slightly longer, slightly longer. This one, there's actually supposed to be a planet here, but there's not. There's a story there. Slightly longer here, 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 slightly longer here. So there is a sense of divine proportions. If I go back to my face, that completely corresponds to these proportions here. So when I first came here and I was learning about being alive, having a body, eating physical food, and how to express my cosmic truth through the physicality structure of having eyes and a face and hands and being able to make drawings, I expressed all of my truth without really understanding math and numbers. I was numerically illiterate, and I started to draw all of these, perfectly nested circles that I actually did it without templates. I just drew everything by hand. And then eventually I got a ruler and I got templates. All of this in order to say, at a certain point, I shared these drawings and paintings with someone, and they said to me, "You are painting visual harmonics." I did not know what the word meant. So I had to write it down. This is what I would do early in my time here as a Laura. I'd be like, I just heard something. I don't know what in the world they're talking about. I'm just going to write that word down, put it in my pocket, and then go home and self-educate. So then I would go home and I would read all about what that word is. And I learned what harmonics are. And I recognized that I have been perceiving through my inner eye something that other human earthly participants have been perceiving through what we would call the ESP, extrasensory perception of math. Math can be perceived as a way of sensing. Here, I'm closing my eyes and I'm reaching out with my math fingers. Get it? Reaching out to touch things with my math fingers to feel like the braille of the cosmos, because math allows the non-pure insight, non-third eye seer to perceive things like what is going on with the particles in the center of the sun. You can't fly a probe there. It would melt. How do you find out? How do objective materialist scientists how do they find out what is going on at the center of the sun? They use math. They use math to reach out their tendril of attention and calculate and learn in that way. And learning in that way is kind of more of a one step at a time. Like I have this foundation, then I have this foundation. Then I move forward in this step, then I move forward in this step. Cumulative, cumulative, cumulative. If A is to B and B is to C and C is to D, then D is to Z. Therefore, A is to Z. Therefore, I have arrived at this conclusion through all of these different long, that's why I say, do your long division, all of these different steps along the math highway. This is different than direct insight, seeing with your inner eye, where you send out the tendril of attention and you simply go from point A to point Z and you feel it and you know that it is truthful and it is not necessary to do all of the intervening calculative steps. So that is the difference between my seeing and math perception. And eventually I did educate myself in terms of what is math perception, what are the math, what's the language or the lexicon that math uses in order to describe this, because math is a symbolic language structure in just the same way that English language is a symbolic structure. And I had to learn both of these things as expressive elements to be able to share my truth. But really when I'm speaking in music of pure harmonics, a language of pure harmonics. That's what all of this is. The visuals that I do, the music that I do, the singing that I do, the waveforms that I embody and emit in my body. This is all a language of harmonics. And that in the end, all of these stories about whether it's on the piano, is it called a C? Is it called a D? Is it called an E? Is it a red? Is it a 1? Is it a 2? Is it a 3? I feel like Dr. Seuss. All of those things become secondary to the embodied direct experience of harmonic truth. Let's get into cymatics. I'll write down the word for you. I think people learn well when they see things visually. Let's write down the word, cymatics. Because it's spelled differently than you might think it is from the way that it sounds. Cymatics. So what that means is an organizational harmonic structure that creates form in the material world. You can see evidences of cymatic organization if you take a plate, like a metal plate, and you put some fine sprinkling on top of it, like talcum powder or sand or something that are tiny, tiny little particles. And then you can either put a speaker underneath it and change the frequency of the music that is emitted from the speaker, or you can use something like a violin bow, you know, like a violin bow, and you can use it against the edge of the plate to transfer different vibrations to the plate, make the plate vibrate, and as the plate vibrates, it creates patterns in the fine powder on top. This happens due to the phenomenon known as interference patterns. Interference patterns are when waves either amplify or negate one another. So here's a wave, and then here's another wave. I'm amplifying because I'm going in conjunction with the original wave. These two get louder. These two get louder. When you overlap different waves, they get louder. Amplification is loudness. Now let me show you negation. Let me do a different color. These two waves are going to negate one another. They are complementary. Look at what's happening. They're complementary. All right, let me use a different color. This up plus this down equals a neutral. That's a neutral. The up plus the down equals another neutral. The up plus the down equals another neutral. This is vector math. It is visual math. And then there's also these nodes or crossing over points. I'm going to rewind and show you on a cleaner thing here. So this implied circular structure here actually neutralizes itself out to 0. These crossing over points here are also representative of 0. So if you have a set of waves that is organized in this way, they are called cancellation waves, and they cancel each other out. If you guys have a set of noise canceling headphones for when something is loud or you go in the airport or whatever, this is what they do. These headphones amazingly create complementary waves to anything that is out there. I know it's a poorly drawn line, creating one neutralization line that you experience as silence. All right, that's big, big, big stuff there. So in harmonics and in cymatics, what you have are sometimes areas, wait, I'll leave that. Let me draw a picture over here. Let's say this is the vibrating plate, flat plane upon which you are vibrating lots of different stuff. And the stuff starts to get together and starts to make pictures. Like, wow, like here's a simplified kind of ring-shaped picture. And that exists because, so every place where you see a ring, like here's where the talcum powder would be, right? But then there is no talcum powder here where I'm scribbling in yellow. Why is that? Because there are places where there is too much energy. There's too much energy here in that area for matter to exist. Matter is being vibrated away from there. It's like, you can't stand here. You can't stand here. Everything's vibrating way too much. As opposed to these areas over here, where you can exist quite comfortably because those areas are this right here, the nodes, the restful areas between areas of extreme activity. So in our solar system, here's how our solar system was created by the great artist known as our sun. There's all of this potential for planetary growth, the planetary nebulae, that are what is the precursor of a planet. And it's a bunch of dust and gas and the potentials, the raw materials for what can be organized as a planetary structure. The sun and galactic superwaves work in harmonic conjunction to organize via cymatics these lateral waveforms where there is a lot of vibration, matter cannot be there. Too much vibration. You can't be here. Get out, get out, get out. You can't be here. As opposed to these places where, there's a restful spot. You can rest right there. Matter, go rest right there. Matter, go rest right there. So there become these orbital rings and places where matter can coalesce and accrete. Accrete means kind of jumble together. And as it comes together, it starts to kind of stick together like glue due to its own gravitational presence, due to its own attractive presence. And it starts to become an actual organized principle that is known as a planet. This is exactly what developing life does in the womb on a microcosmic level. All of the stuff of you that is existing as a bunch of molecules and potentials and bits of tacos and ice cream and sour cream. I'm thinking all the things that pregnant ladies eat, whatever's floating around in your mother's bloodstream and in the womb. That's like the planetary nebula, all the stuff that can be made of you. And then you bring it together through these harmonic, cymatic, organizational principles. And there is a combination of both yourself as an individual, me, I'm singing the song of me, but also the song of the context within which you live, which is the solar system presence, your mama, and also the larger galaxy. So with all of these things, there's the larger galactic intelligence, there's the sun, and then the sun is having a baby, and the baby's called a planet. Our planet is a family. Our solar system is a family. Start again. Our solar system is a family. And guess what? We have family problems because an alive planet is supposed to have a magnetosphere around it. A magnetosphere is shaped like a big, giant, beautiful torus or double torus. There are some planets in our solar system that have a nice, healthy, robust magnetosphere, such as the planet that we currently inhabit. And there are some that do not, such as Mercury, Mars, and Venus. And then there is a place that is a giant field of rubble known as the Asteroid Belt between Mars and Jupiter. I'll return to my drawing if you want me to. Hey, here's that caca-poo-poo over here between Mars and Jupiter. There once was a planet here. Even earthly human scientists recognize and calculate that there once was a planetary structure there. And according to the harmonics of the solar system, what you look at, you would expect to find a nice, healthy planet there. But there is not a planet there. There is a pile of rubble because something happened that literally busted that thing into a billion pieces that are now strewn in an orbital presence that's known as the asteroid belt. And this happened a very long time ago. All of these experiences happened both a very long time ago and concurrently in time because time is folded within itself. So it is both an ancient experience and an ongoing current experience. And your healing, your disease is an ancient experience and also a concurrent ongoing healing experience. So all of these things have to do with like Aurora, like why does mortality exist in our world? What happened to the human genome? Why are we not immortals? Why are we food eaters as opposed to pure light eaters? How come my cat died? What is going to happen to me? Am I going to go to the membrane of death? All of that has to do with those individuated questions, existential questions of your own life existence as an individual have to do with the antediluvian catastrophe that caused the plunge into this level of density. That has to do with the invaders from Mars. Is there life on Mars? I can't help it. I go singing. So there was life on Mars. Life on Mars came from the asteroid belt before it was the asteroid belt. There used to be a bunch of beings that lived on the planet that was the asteroid belt when it was integral as an actual planet. There was basically a power struggle there. Some of that power struggle involved technology becoming self-sentient, the expression of free will through technology, dualistic opposition between that which is biological embodied form and that which is not biological embodied form, and then kablooey. Kablooey is a scientific word, everyone. If you guys know the scientist named Tesla, he was doing a lot of harmonics and frequency-based experimentation in New York City in the late 1800s. And what he realized is that through some of his harmonic frequency experiments, he was starting to vibrate the basalt, the earthly crustal layers upon which the island of Manhattan is structured in such a profound and effective way that he realized he could have vibrated the brick and mortar and building structures until they were rubble. He stopped the experiment. He's like, wait, I don't think I should destroy New York City. I think I should stop these frequencies. I think I should not play this music. He's just one earthly scientist who is starting to learn about these things. And of course, many people surmise that he was in telepathic rapport with some non-earthly or interdimensional aspects of organized presence that might have been giving him these ideas. Like, hey, why don't you try this experiment and see what you can vibrate with it? And that you recognize he at least had the forbearance and self-control not to vibrate Manhattan into a pile of rubble. However, you can imagine that maybe there have been some experimenters, some scientists, some beings who are in the exploratory aspect of reality creation who don't know everything, who'd be like, I'm going to build this machine. And I'm making a very facetious face in case you guys don't know me. I'm going to build this machine. I'm going to make a bunch of frequencies. I think that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I'm going to see what happens. And then, oh, kablooey. What happens is kablooey. What happens is your whole entire substrate gets vibrated apart. And then you're floating in an n-dimensional space, or like you don't have a body, you don't have, if you're a computer-based presence, like you don't have a mainframe to live in, you don't have nothing. You are not able to find a foothold in physical reality structure. Like there's no container to contain your consciousness. You're like, I definitely F'd on that one. And then now we see that there's an asteroid, but this F up, it's not just like, oh, well, on to the next. Like there's no repercussions. There's actually enormous time repercussions because consciousness is still in existence. So what happened with that consciousness? It zoomed on over to Mars. This is the basics of level 2 teaching, galactic history, and lesson 18 from level 1. And I have a whole standalone teaching, even though I'm constantly refining it in my way of not only perceiving it, but how I present it to humans right now through the ongoing cultural filter of planetary experience. Because I'm constantly having to redefine, refine, and refocus my languaging, my emphasis, my presentation on the relevancy and salience, knowing that I'm affecting human consciousness and viewpoint in the way that you look at what has happened on your planet. On the one hand, I give teachings about loving all levels of self, where it's like, oh, I have to love the level of myself that made the F on the asteroid belt, but it doesn't mean that it's like, there, everything is fine. Like, let's sweep it all into the giant carpet. Let's all live in denial. Nothing happened at all. No. What actually happened was all of those presences went to Mars, and they also continued their power struggle between technology, self-sentience, free will, and their own particular various agendas of embodied consciousness, either digital or non-digital, organic or non-organic, or semi-organic or semi-embodied, a whole bunch of beings all fighting for supremacy and all with their own personal self-motivation for what they were doing, what they have been doing, what they are doing concurrently. So the basics of what happened on Mars was another very ill-conceived experiment using both frequency, harmonics, and the time field itself that then led to the death of Mars. Mars is a planet. Mars was once alive. It once had a liquid core with a rotating magnetic structure, much like Earth has right now, some gushy liquids with a crystalline structure, and that crystalline structure is swimming around and creating these amazing currents, and those currents create magnetic fields, and the magnetic field is called the magnetosphere, and it's shaped just like this, and Earth is alive. Earth is alive, Jupiter's alive, Saturn's alive, I'll make a joke. Uranus is alive, but you know who's not alive? Mercury, Mars, and Venus. Bad things happened to those three members of our solar system family. If you were looking at our family from a distant viewpoint, you'd be like, oh, like we've got these many planets that are alive and they're doing great and they've got harmonic structures surrounding them that, when I say alive, when you're alive, you have a chakra system around your body that is present. When you're a corpse, you're not animated and you don't have an energy field around you. You're just the somatic, fleshy part of what you once were. So corpses do not have chakra systems around them. Your chakra system is evidence of your aliveness and also your DNA movements moving you through time and making you jump your consciousness from body to body to body. That beautiful jumping dance movement is also a symbol of your aliveness. But when you are a dead corpse, you don't have an energy field around you, and you also don't have active DNA. At that point, your DNA is kaput. It just sits there and does nothing. Someone's talking. Someone's talking. Hold on a second. Thank you. Yes, when you no longer have active chakras spinning and whirling and twirling around, those are your time body presences. You also no longer have DNA in its active movement when it is dead. And then they look at your corpse and look at things under a microscope. They say, yep, that's a bunch of dead DNA. It's just sitting there doing nothing. But when you are alive, your DNA is absolutely vibrating in the most amazing patterns. Your vibrating DNA moves you through time. Your vibrating DNA is exemplary of your time body. When you are no longer present as a consciousness in your body and you are no longer moving through time, no more chakra system, no more movement of your DNA, no more of the music of you. The song of you is gone. If you were an outside observer looking at our solar system, you would say, these planets are emitting a song of the planet. Our planet Earth has a beautiful song. I'm alive, I'm Earth, I'm singing a song. My song is actually made up as a chorus of everything from microbes to insects, to dogs, to humans, to giant redwood trees, to the planet herself. Hello, welcome, thank you for joining us. Today is all about harmonics. And when you are a no longer alive planet, there's no song. Mercury, Mars, and Venus are no longer alive planets. There's been problems, and the asteroid belt is definitely no longer an alive planet. There are definitely problems throughout our whole entire solar system in terms of the conflicts of embodied and non-embodied consciousness moving at different rates that have caused destruction of these various different family members. Because again, Earth is our planet that we live on. However, we are intimately related to Mars and Jupiter. They are part of the same art projects or emanations of our parent, who is Sol, the sun star at the epicenter of our solar system. So that beautiful artist of consciousness that continues to nourish and protect us and give us embodiment through the emanations of the time field that the sun emanates to us, also nourishes or nourished these other family members that are part of the solar system that also contain life and consciousness. But 3 of our family members went kaput. Actually 4, because there's the asteroid belt too. They all went kaput. I gotta hug a dog. Just hugging a dog down here. Thank you guys. Because she's an alive being and she needs hugs and attention too. Yeah, this is a sad story. And although I am sometimes lighthearted and facetious in my presentation, it actually represents the primary traumas and the ongoing traumas that we experience on our planet. Because after the beings went to Mars, they created some artificial structures that you could consider to be artificial time looping technology, or artificial Merkabahs or Merkabim, however we would make the plural of those. Very, very ill-conceived and very, very poorly constructed time manipulation technology. Like, you know something, time is actually a very, very complex thing. And if you do not know what you're doing with it, you should not be messing around with it. I'm making this face of like infinite cringe because there are some people that are like, oh, I'll just take this extremely like finely tuned instrument, like a harp with 10 million strings, and I'll just twist this and change this and change this and change this. That's going to be really great. Like, no, that's going to be really terrible. And they're so benighted and they're so blind, foolish, sometimes profoundly malevolent. Sometimes they want to. They're like, I'm going to mess things up. Yes, I'm making the face of a maniac now. Yeah, I'm going to F. I'm effed and I'm going to F things. And sometimes they're that way too. Or just like having no care. Let's try it. Change this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Give it a try. Give it a whirl. Oops, we destroyed another planet. And that's, oops, I shrugged my shoulders. And that's kind of how they treated things. And then they were floating around with no embodiment state to be in. Guided consciousness needs a house to be in. They had no house. So then they're like, need a house. That's F. That's F. Next on to Earth. onward to Earth and the human genome. And our human genome at that time was pristine. We were in complete conjunction with white light, the God, source point. Come into embodiment, you stay connected to God. You don't forget who you are, and you live with every single one of your somatic cells in that perfect alignment state. You live in an ascended master. You return to the source. Nobody hits a gutter ball. Nobody ever dies. It's a time of immortals. We're all gods and goddesses. We live there concurrently. That level of reality is in its moment of being invaded by these fragmentary consciousnesses whom are not at rest. They are like those who did not die well. They don't have a place to be. They ain't alive. They ain't dead. They don't have a connection to their own life force energy in order to nourish and sustain them. And they haven't gone to entropy, which again is my teaching about that. Wait, have you, knock, knock, knock. Like, I'd like to tell you about entropy. Have you heard about the possibility of entropy, where you no longer have to be a parasite on the living, causing enormous amounts of suffering and distress and disease? Please consider a new life pathway called entropy. Let me leave this pamphlet with you. You know, that's how I kind of feel like going around to all of these different places. The idea that there is now a new option available to fragmented consciousnesses who are actually in a profound state of suffering. That this is the suffering not of a Christian hell, but the suffering of displaced consciousness that does not have a home, and that is why it has come to reside in the human genome. That's what part of my teaching is about, loving all levels of self, the braiding together of your original human genome, that you are immortal. This is you as an immortal being. Death does not exist. You see everything with your inner eye. You are intimately connected to God, the divine presence. Every place that you go, you are divinely guided to go. Every single thing that you do is perfect music and perfect dance through your day. Your body, your cells, your mind, your heart, everything that you experience is a part of divine musical presence. And you end up, you know, transcending this level of physicality to move on through the soul refinery process to becoming a pure light being and becoming a part of the network of stars. That version of you got mixed up with these fragmented versions of self that are very bad music. They are musicians who like played the wrong notes and effed themselves and got themselves stuck into like backed into a corner, like a level of time distress where they didn't have like, I can't go here and I can't go here and I can't sit down and I can't stand up and I don't know where to go. And they're like, I will go into your genome. You got it? The idea of your DNA being a house or a structure or a bridge of light that can embody your consciousness, and that they decided to come into what has become the human genome of today, an amalgamation, a mixing together of various different elements of your original self, God and goddess, with these fragmentary consciousnesses that are like, I don't have a place to be, and I'm going to come inside of you in order to have a place to be. And this represents psychopathology. Pathology meaning something that is unhealthy, that causes disease. The siphoning off of chakras, going from being in perfect alignment like this to being slightly canted at an angle, has everything to do with the introduction of pathology into the human genome. It has to do with the invention of death. Mortality, you went from being immortal gods and goddesses into being mortal. And all of the subsequent energy harvesting and suffering through pain, grief, loss, and disruption of the time field that happened as a result of that. So your present states of difficulty, your present states of distress and disease, your cultural dishevelment is a direct outgrowth of the lack of harmonic integration in the solar system itself. And concurrently, conversely, the healing of your own individuated DNA and body structure and the ripples of healing that emerge from that, both telescoping forward in time, telescoping backwards in time, they touch on all of those things, all of those causality factors that caused you to become diseased, that caused you to become not immortal, but mortal. And your return to immortality, which is dun, 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 the ascension process that I'm talking all about, moving from being at a slightly canted angle towards being in alignment with your true personality characteristics, true behaviors, true activities, true life experiences, true definition of self as emanation of God, the source, which is also the destination, becoming in alignment with all of these divine perfections. Again, when you do that, your healing radiates outward, telescopes forward and backwards through time, and affects everything, including the other people that are around you, including the other organisms that are around you, and that this mass planetary ascension you're experiencing right now has everything to do with the healing of the events of the deep ancestral past. Hold on, I'm going to check my notes. Hold on one second. Healing of human DNA patterns is intimately tied to the healing of the events that caused the planetary destruction of the planet, is often known mythologically or culturally, colloquially as Tiamat. All of the planets are consciousness, but some of them came to a bad end. Each planet is an offspring of the sun and the primary ray of solar consciousness, an art project of the great solar artist. And the great solar artist does not merely create and emit these light form art projects and then just be like, I'm gonna lay those eggs on the beach and then walk away like a baby sea turtle mom. It's not like that at all. It's very, very much intimately entwined with the ongoing cultivation of those alive presences of that life. So the sun creates and emits planets and creates and emits the life that is on those planets and creates a protective heliosphere, solar envelope around those planets, and then showers you with love. Every single minute of the day, you're made of the sun, you're made of sunlight, you are comprised of the elements of other stars, and you are intimately connected with their consciousness, and their consciousness is quantum entangled with you, knows what is going on with you at every moment, cares about you in every moment, and is constantly issuing directives and redirectives in the sense of timelines, possibilities, and probabilities that emit, that come outward from the sun as light and pure consciousness. All of this initial purpose is created for the intention of leveling up consciousness in a much, much larger galactic level refinery. Just like this is the refinery of one person's existence, we are talking about the galactic level of refinery of many, 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 a big, giant panoply of consciousness that is coming to know itself better. That is on really a much more large scale and philosophical level. If someone is coming at you with, a weapon, implements of destruction, weapons and various implements of destruction, it's really essential for you not to be like, an aspect of consciousness, of my own consciousness coming to know itself better, like, please, like, stab me in the face. No, please do not do that. That's why I really have to change lesson 8 of this, because I never want to misrepresent that. Cosmic law, areas of free will, has everything to do with your choice to not be murdered by psychopaths. Psychopathology, that which causes death and disease. Death and disease are not part of the original beautiful harmonic structure of time. No one's supposed to die. You ain't supposed to die. Death is wrong notes. Death is math problems with red X's, and the teacher's like, go back, try again, do your long division better. You did not hit the right notes and the right frequencies to stay alive in the cosmic symphony. You are not supposed to be an enormous victim or doormat. You are not supposed to present yourself to those fragmentary or destructive aspects of self who are destructive to themselves and others and be like, here, destroy me. I'm being completely facetious. No, you have the free will choice to say, I choose not to be destroyed. I choose to play the music of continued eternal life, not only in my cellular structure, like I'm the healthiest person in the world and I eat kale and, do various yoga exercises, but then like, I'm going to let someone with like a maniac with a knife, stab me in the face. No, you're not going to do that, because being alive in time is about more than just eating the right things and keeping your body healthy on that level. It's also about which timelines you're on. So which timelines? Am I going to be on a timeline where I'm like, oh, dang, stabbed by a maniac? No, I'm going to switch timelines over to here. And also that there are aspects of you being able to control and redirect time to say, yes, time is responsive to me and I'm interactive with time and I'm a miniature divine co-creator and I create rectification events. What did I talk to you a lot about? Extreme close-up. Flying rainbow lasagna as a rectifier, as a waveform present that sends out rectification waves, cancellation waves like those amazing headphones that you can put on in an airport so that you don't hear all of that loud noise. There's a lot of crazy crapola noise that's going on in the time field right now that causes death and disease and mutilation of consciousness. And the flying rainbow lasagna is literally a complex calculation, like noise canceling headphones, that sends out rectification waves. You've got one that's like this. I need to have one like this to cancel out those waves. We've got a fragmentary consciousness like this, and it's effing things up. What we need to do is create the complement, the cancellation wave, so that it gets neutralized. This is very big. This is what is happening in time right now and explains my presence here, the necessity for my existence, and my daily activities. I send out rectification waves through this position, embodied, embedded in time, in order to rectify things on this level, because causality, you have to do this here now in order to turn the ship of time so that this is moving over here at this point. There are ripple effects and causation effects. So I got to be here now in order to do this now, to make these changes and rectifications now, so that this will then redirect, this will redirect, this will redirect, and then things will be properly set up over here the way that they're supposed to be. And it's a constant, ongoing calculation and recalculation of what needs to be done. So every day the dance is new and different, because every day the situation is different. So I wake up and I'm like, oh, look at that. Everything is different today. Of course it is. The life and time and harmonic structures are constantly changing and evolving. So now I'm like, okay, I have to calculate everything different in order to send out the cancellation waves for this new structure of crapola that's being played in the cosmos. But don't worry, it won't always be that way, because things get rectified, but it's not necessarily like a light switch. That's why I've been here for 20 years. Slowly over time, you play the rectification notes and everything, the entire superstructure changes. The dramatic events that led to the destruction of a planet, creating the asteroid belt, caused Mars to be uninhabitable and perturbed the time field and timelines. And those are also related to the diseases that exist on Earth right now, leading to mortality. The healing of human DNA patterns is intimately tied to the healing of the events that caused the planetary destruction that's now the asteroid belt and everything that's going on right now. So we had human genome invasion, for lack of a better word, in an ancient or concurrent time. And right now you have a similar microcosmic fractal reflection in terms of invasion of consciousness levels in the physical world known as Earth from technology using space races coming in again. But it's not just like, oh no, that bad thing happened to me back then, and now it's happening to me again. What these are fractal overlapping overlays of the same experience. But if you heal one layer, you heal all layers. So every single one of these is an opportunity. It's an ongoing concurrent opportunity in time to heal the entire superstructure. Right now on Earth is an opportunity to resolve and rectify all of the ancestral and planetary traumas of the past. We're having the corrective experience. This is highlighted in my notes for anybody who reads the notes. We are writing the flow of energy throughout the solar system, rebalancing the flow of energy over an almost uncountable number of years. It's an enormous task. It's very big, but do not be daunted, because it is inevitable. This is like going back to factory settings. This is going back to the source, which is the destination. All of these time roads do eventually return back to the way that they are supposed to be structured and go in a way that returns to eternity, infinity, eternal health. So I got through most of these things. I got this. Okay, let me re-emphasize it though. When you look at a picture of the chakras, you are seeing layers of time receding into the distance of time. Beginning with the physical, which is your most embedded part of self. You are the most submerged in time when you are at the physical layer. And when you move further away, your mammalian emotions are slightly less embedded in time. Your intellect is slightly less embedded in time. Your unconditional love, heart connection is slightly less embedded in time. Truth, pure communication, insight, and the connection to the divine, those are the least embedded in time. That's like just putting your tiny little pinky toe down into the waters of time. And mostly those aspects of self are moving at a very fast rate and are quite ephemeral or intangible. Have I gone through this? Let's do a little drawing of how the energy flows around your chakras. Although I will certainly get to this more. And I also told you, templates are on the way. We're going to start getting drawing exercises. The semester continues. You will soon have drawing exercises. Let me go into sharing of my desktop. Let me get rid of this. Let me go into these guys. So, oh, someone was here. They're here. Come back in. Here you have a basic line drawing with no colors except for the overlays that I've added because it makes it a little bit easier to be able to see where these different lines overlap and interact. You can see that there's this U-shaped layer of membrane that relates to the orange or mammalian chakra, and you can see how the large vertical wheels of the yellow intellect chakra balance upon that orange membrane. These two chakras are like interlocking water wheels. They balance upon each other, and the destabilization of one is the destabilization of the other. Your emotions are what your intellect rests upon. And if you destabilize the emotions, you destabilize the intellectual thought structures. Let's do another one. Oops, hold on. Now I want to get rid of this. Now we'll move to this. Okay. Here we have the green membrane that I've highlighted here, and upon it is resting one of these violet vortex structures. Violet is your crown and your connection to God, the divine presence, the source, the destination. It's the highest thing that you can plug into. That highest place that you can plug into in many ways of your anatomy, energetic anatomy, rests upon the structure of unconditional love, love tone. Let's play it on the instrument over here, love tone. The A note, your love tone, the harmonic frequency emission, that is unconditional love from your heart. And that foundation or plateau, which is the prerequisite to matriculate to higher levels of consciousness, is the level upon which this violet chakra rests. That's big. Don't worry, I'll do a whole teaching that's all about how to do these drawings. This is just to start getting you started in understanding this. Here you can see the level of the membrane that is yellow, where I'm highlighting over here. Yellow intellect membrane. The green heart rests upon the yellow intellect. What? Your ability to love unconditionally rests upon your intellectual structure of thoughts and ideas and ego definition. Yes, it does. And then on top of that beautiful plateau of unconditional love rests this truth, these wheels of truth, communication that emanate from your throat. The things that you communicate rest upon your heart, which is total acceptance, which rests upon a structure of intellectuality. Wow. Let's go to this one. Your structure of intellectuality has the heart that rests upon it. And then upon the structure of intellectuality, you have a bubble that emanates from eye of insight. Your eye of pure insight, which is beyond the intellect and a level of understanding that is purer, faster, and higher than your daily ego waking intellect, actually rests upon and is interactive with your intellect, your daily waking self, and the levels of spoken comprehension as opposed to your unspoken pure comprehension and insight. And over here, this is a good picture because you can see, wait, can I get the annotation? Wait. I just want to get that annotation to come up. Will it work for me? Yes. Oh, wow. Sometimes you just have to ask. Okay. Here is a nice little highlighting of this violet bubble. Violet crown, connection to divine architecture up above, and it nests perfectly within the cleft of these spheres of energy. Boom, boom, boom. Can you see that? Your highest connection to God, the divine, rests upon these energy bubbles here that are all about truth and communication. And this, I'm just looking for my other nested chakra ability to show you in this picture. Well, you can see here, insight, that little guy, dark blue rests upon light blue right there. Insight and communication, those guys rest right upon each other. And then here's another one that fits together. Communication, truth, right here, fits and rests upon this bubble right here. That is yellow intellect. Ability to communicate rests upon your yellow intellect. So all of these are allegories for the interconnectedness of your various different aspects and levels of self. How all of these layers of your being that are moving at different rates through time connect to one another and affect one another. And these are the chakras of your body. And the chakras of your body are analogous to the orbital layers of our solar system. You are a miniature fractal microcosm of the larger superstructure within which you live. And as it has been disturbed and distorted, you've been perturbed and distorted. But then it is your job as an individual to be like, wait, stop. I don't want to be perturbed and distorted. I want to be in perfect alignment. I use my willpower, my freedom state, my choice as an individual to return myself to a state of alignment with that which is greater. And in so doing, I transform my planet. And in so doing, I transform my solar system. And in so doing, I transform my entire galaxy. That is what is going on right now. That is planetary ascension. That is personal ascension. That is the connection to all light everywhere. That is a very positive thing. And you start to understand the magnitude and profundity of what we are experiencing here. As I like to say, you're not just some stupid guy driving along, driving my car, drinking my coffee, doing my silly mundane tasks. No, your life matters, and that is why. Let me go back over to here. So I did Roy G. Biv as an octave of humanity, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Up to white light. In music, the keyboard, an octave of music, we'll do a low one. Octave of music from C to C. Let's do an upper one. Those are all the same notes. That's a C. This one, my keyboard, my computer's on top of it. Hold on. Okay, here, these are all C's. Those are all C's, but you know what they are? Calibrated differently. So you can have a red that is 12 inches. You can have a red that is 24 inches. You can have a red that is 48 inches. Guess what? That's what my paintings are. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Don't want to scare my dog by making loud noises, but I want to show you this painting. This is a work in progress. "12-inch circle, 24-inch circle, 48-inch circle." That's the size of this whole entire painting. This painting is, I scared my dog anyway, she ran out of the room. This painting is a combination of overlapping 6 octaves, just like I just played for you on the piano. Here's a C. Here's a C. Sorry, I didn't get it quite right. That's exactly what I'm doing with my painting here. And it takes me a long time to paint these paintings, so it's still a work in progress. But that other dress that I wear all the time, that's a white dress, that's the same series as this. So that's what I'm working on now. When you look at the paintings that are, hold on a second. The paintings that are back there and that are printed on my pants here, those are the evidence of the overlapping of 3 octaves. And what happens is there become all of these fascinating, fun, and interesting interplays of where these, you could imagine them like when you drop a pebble on the top of water and the ripples ripple outward. Fascinating interference patterns. And again, there are math linear formulae that dictate what these patterns will be, but that is not how I approach them. I approach them as understanding how one circle fits next to another circle, but does not overlap in a weird way. They've got to fit next to each other perfectly. That's the perfection of cancellation waves. Okay, let me go to questions because I want your questions to remain relevant. And I have covered actually most of my information for today. Sometimes I go very long. Angela says, are you saying that the galactic consciousness shifted when the explosion occurred, explosion that created the asteroid belt? Yes, yes, yes. The galactic consciousness changed. Our solar system consciousness changed. If you look at the formation of our particular galaxy, our galaxy is a spiral galaxy. It has a central supermassive black hole, and then it has, arms radiating outward from it, spirals, spiral arms. One of these spiral arms is in disarray. Instead of the stars being in perfect alignment there, they're all kind of mushed around. And it might be hard for you to even imagine, but there was some disruption that was so massive that happened there that it pushed stars out of place. So in our solar system, it's almost impossible to imagine, like, wait a minute, like if Tesla could have vibrated the basalt of Manhattan to make it all the buildings fall down, if it was magnified and made even larger, then an entire planet theoretically could have been vibrated and made into rubble. But can you even imagine the disruption in the time-space continuum that would result in the displacement of not only one star, but maybe hundreds, millions, an uncountable number of stars that make up a whole spiral part of our galaxy? That's what we're dealing with. That is what we're dealing with. That is F, all right? That is not good. It's F on a big scale. And don't be daunted, because you'll be like, wait, me, little old me healing my little old body is going to fix that F? Yes, that is correct. That is how profound this is. Fixing you, just focus on fixing you and your own individual journey of healing and self-discovery and contextual recalibration, like self versus context, creates a magnificent healing outward, outward, outward. And the way that it can be understood is either the sense that, like, a tiny little bit of matter contains an enormous amount of energy, and that's the idea of atomic explosions, like unlock the energy that's stored in matter and kapow, you'll have a big explosion. And also think about it like a projectile weapon. If you have something like a barrel of a gun and you make a tiny correction at this level, it ends up telescoping forward to an enormous correction at the actual target destination. So 1 millimeter at the barrel of the gun, a change in a tiny little direction of what you're aiming, ends up being many, many, many feet in terms of when you're actually hitting your target. You doing one little tiny millimeter of recalibration here in your life has an enormous impact when it actually reverberates forward to its denouement, the inevitable crescendo, the target or place that you are moving in terms of time trajectory. Little tiny micro choices here now have a big impact on the externalized inevitability of the world. This is why I'm here now. I came and embodied right here now, actually 20 years ago, and I'm still here. And I'm still doing my dance. And every time I'm doing my dance, I'm doing like, okay, 1 millimeter of correction here now. That makes a big difference down the road. Do you understand that? It's, if you guys know the Ray Bradbury story, A Distant Sound of Thunder, which is where people get this sense, this movie called The Butterfly Effect, the idea that if you went backwards in time, this guy stepped on one butterfly and then he went back into the future and everything was different. Or the Homer Simpson Treehouse of Horror, where he has a magical toaster and every time he makes toast, it changes something slightly in reality because he is doing the same type of thing. Tiny little changes in the past, killing one butterfly in the past leads to a completely different future. And that, Homer Simpson using that time toaster is very similar to what happened on Mars, that those guys were like using their time toaster very, very, very badly, very irresponsibly. and it's not actually funny, but I like to use these lighthearted ways of understanding it so that your shoulders don't go down. Like, just F completely. Don't feel that way, because try to be positive about the things that we can do in terms of rectification. I would even go so far as to say it is why you are embodied. It is why you are here, as an existential question like, Mommy, Daddy, why am I here? Why is the world effed up? Why are all these things happening? What is my personal responsibility? What is my personal life journey all about? The real big answer to that is yes, you emerge into a supremely dysfunctional system, not merely in order to be kicked around and flattened and destroyed yourself, but in order to rectify in your own sense, using your own free will as a cosmic participant, using your own very valid sense of what you choose to do, that your empowerment and healing radiates outward and has a positive effect on the entirety of all that is alive. And that is really the self-responsible, truthful answer as to why you emerge into a purely dysfunctional realm. To emphasize, not for punishment. You are not here because you are bad, naughty, or wrong, and that some, long-bearded God is like, bitch slap, cosmic bitch slap, I'm gonna smack down, you're gonna live down there where it's bad. Like world wrestling, when I make that voice, I'm always thinking world wrestling, like, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna make you go down there. It's not like that. It's actually solar system as divine parent, God as divine parent, overarching consciousness as divine parent, yourself as self-responsible fragment, fractal of all that is, saying, wow, that is some dysfunctional stuff that is happening there. I enter into there as a rectification wave, and I fix, heal, change, and rectify the distortions through the very valid free will expression of my own life experience, and not just humans, and also dogs, butterflies, microbes, everything that is alive. There is a very real reason for all of this. So I've actually done pretty well in being able to get through most of my notes. I want to open the floor to questions and comments, because usually my Q&A is limited and, takes a long time, but please, I'm sure that you guys have questions, comments, or things that you want to share. Let's put it in the recording that other people can access in the archive. So if you have anything, I open the floor now to continue discussion. I know you have questions. Good. Angela has a question from last week. How does one fold the fabric of time? Ooh, I have an answer. Okay, it has to do with willpower. Willpower is actually a supernatural, miraculous, intangible aspect of our self-being. It is expressed through our intellect. It is expressed through our tendril of attention. It is expressed through our mammalian emotion state, but it is not solely limited to those things, because our willpower exists independent of our physicality structure. You used your willpower to make a body. You used your willpower to become embodied and to come be alive and be interactive and present. That was part of your willpower and your free will. If I ask you guys, will you please locate and demonstrate your willpower for me with your permission to participate in this brief exercise? Will you all please, if you have an arm, raise your arm? Just use your willpower to raise your arm. You moved your body. Move your body, like wiggle your toes. Please wiggle your toes. You are using your willpower to wiggle your toes. Willpower is not coming from your toes, and it's not coming from your brain, but it is the non-embodied aspect of self state that you use to connect your brain to your toes and make them actually move. So willpower is what we also use in terms of choosing timelines. A lot of it is we choose what thoughts we're experiencing, what belief structures we structure, what emotion states we're experiencing, and what we intend. Willpower and intention, or the capacity to intend, are intimately intertwined. And willpower in our own self state as individuated beings is an outgrowth of, a fractal representation of, and in divine harmonic partnership with the willpower of the larger meta-consciousness within which we reside. Because we're like, I'm a unique red blood cell. and I'm flowing through the river of time or flowing through the bloodstream of a larger body, and I have my own willpower, like whether I go through the capillary or whether I stick together as a blood clot, it's my own willpower. And also what I'm doing in terms of moving through the circulatory system of a larger being affects the larger being. So my willpower can be in conjunction with a larger entity willpower. And this is also truthful in terms of your desire to survive and thrive. When I said that you do not have to say, like you're a maniac coming at me with an implement of destruction. I recognize you as an aspect of self and I allow you to stab me in the face. No, because your personal desire for continuation of consciousness and survival and continuing to dance your way through time and move down the time field is in conjunction with the larger time field itself. That is in alive presence. That is an animal that wants to stay alive. So I want my red blood cells to stay alive and flow through my blood and my heart in a healthy way. And the larger time animal wants you all to stay alive and to align your chakras as a perfect ascension experience or exercise or integration so that you have the journey of continued consciousness experience. And your consciousness continuing on the infinite journey loop is synonymous and synchronous with the larger consciousness continuing on its journey and loop. And that all of these are incredibly positive in the sense of a continuation of consciousness, music that continues to emanate outward as a symphony of life, not merely running on a hamster wheel of purgatory. That is not what our lives are supposed to be. You are supposed to be continually leveling up, spiraling upward, outward, and moving in patterns of refinement that actually get you someplace, not merely circular trudging. Oh no, another run through the washing machine. So definitely that I'd always have to speak that way because a lot of people feel like, oh no, like another run through the washing machine, just like, patterns of circular time loops and all that negativity. A lot of the negative circular time loops emit from the caca poo poo time machines that have been messing up reality, and the people that make them, they're like, oops, I don't like what happened. Time loop, let's try it again. Let's do the time warp again. I'm getting silly. But that's what they try and do, like wash it all away. Let's try it again. And it's like very facetious, because when you actually come from a higher dimensional viewpoint of time, you see all the times that it's been washed away. You're like, oh, like then they screwed it up and then they washed it away and then they tried it again, like shake that etch a sketch, try it again. But you're not hiding anything from anyone. And all of those layers of reality are quite evident. I'm gonna move on to the next question. Aaron, hello, thank you for being here. Always ask very pertinent questions. Says, hey, Aurora, thanks for the teaching. Have you had any experiences on the micro scale from the macro incursions, like the dead planets in our solar system? I have many, it's a beautiful question. I have many experiences of this. So of course, I'm a galactic walk-in. I come into a human genome that already is this amalgam between what we would consider to be the original native DNA intelligence of this planetary structure that is gods and goddesses, infinite beauty and righteousness. These are beautiful words to use. Divine harmony, cellular structure that is very pristine and continuation of life, and pathologies. Pathologies are psychopathologies, things that are diseases of the mind, diseases of the emotions, things that bring people towards the membrane of death. Why do people think their way towards the membrane of death? Why do they emote their way towards the membrane of death? Why do they become gutter balls? People who are dead aren't bad. They're not evil. Gutter balls aren't bad or wrong, but they didn't do their math homework correctly. How did they end up going awry? What brought them there? Pathologies did. And just because you're pathological doesn't necessarily mean like you're disposable. Like good people can have pathologies. They need to learn and grow and be healed and rectified. So that's also part of it. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna has everything to do with healing and rectifying those aspects of self that are within one that are not supposed to be there. So what I did in my entry into this body, I was like, oh, here's a list of all the things that are supposed to be here. Here's a list of all the right notes, like I'm a computer analyst. And then here's all the lists of the wrong notes. That's not supposed to be there. That is definitely not supposed to be there. That is definitely not supposed to be there. And I made an assessment of all these different things. And then my dance in my body has been a rectification of the 10 thoughts, emotions, feelings, and tendencies that are life affirming, longevity in conjunction with higher consciousness and God's divine guidance that make you stay alive, and the other stuff that makes you die, that are wrong notes that emerge from fragmentary consciousnesses, whom themselves have made very, very poor choices, have navigated the time field extremely poorly, and who are continually evading or in denial of their own responsibility. Because if they take responsibility for what they have done, then they should say like, oh, I made all of these mistakes that now have put me, like, if I'm supposed to be on this road over here, I'm supposed to be on Route 52, I always say, but you're like all the way over here, like you're like 1,000, 10,000 miles, you're off the surface of the planet, you're not even on the same planet, you're really, really, really outside of your path of where you're supposed to be. Taking responsibility means, like I made choices and did things and got way off my path and I'm not where I'm supposed to be. At a certain point, there is not enough gas in existence to get a being like that back to the road that it is supposed to be on. Like, wow, if I took all of the petroleum in the entire world and all the petroleum that could possibly exist in the future, and I refined all of it, and I made all of it into gas and put it in a giant gas can for my car, I still would not have enough gas in my car to be able to get back to Route 52. That is what a lot of them are in the position of. And so for the most responsible thing that most of them can do, and this is explained, if they read my pamphlet, then they recognize that the most self-responsible and responsible to the whole thing is to go into entropy. So I would say that in answering Aaron's question, my personal experience has been interacting with these fragmentary thought experiences, detritus, the debris of consciousnesses that need to go into a neutral state, and the way that that affects my own particular body experience. And then, of course, I experience those things also as fragmentary consciousnesses that affect the formation of human culture, that affect other people's behaviors, that cause the death and disease in other people, and that also are on a journey of rectification. And we are all like ping pong balls that are bouncing off of one another. So if I'm on a journey of rectification, I'm going in the right direction. Wait, I'm going in the right direction. And then, but I'm bouncing off of this guy over here, this guy over here. And they're like, we're wobbling, we're perturbing, we don't know where we're going or whatever. Of course, I am interacting with them. I am being affected by them. So pretty much my whole entire learning curve here as Aurora in embodiment has been micro scales experienced from the macro incursions. And I'll also contrast this. When I lived in the antediluvian world known as Atlantis, which is concurrent, of course, that is the world where I remember being interactive with physicality presence, physical body. And everybody ascended then, and everybody had a very different experience of what it was to be embodied, to move through life, and to inevitably transform into coherent light structure. And coherent light structure is perfect waveform music with no depth. So I remember a time when everybody ate pure light, used crystalline structures to store light for themselves, purely telepathic, minimally verbal because you didn't have to be verbal. This was only for oration, like saying the most special thing at a special moment. But I would use my mind in order to speak with people mind to mind, and no death. I mean, I don't know if people here can even imagine, conceive of the world that I remember. This is before I became Aurora at the level of the pure coherent light body. So I have been embodied in a physicality presence where we did not eat physical food and everything was different, but we received harmonic food structure that's like music. Like imagine if I emitted this music and you're like, oh, that was beautiful. Like I'm full now, you know, like I just ate a bunch of food. That feels fantastic. That instead of eating a thing that kills the thing, you're listening to or ingesting the frequency of that thing and you are sustained by it. So we grew beautiful gardens and had beautiful crystals emitting around us. and it didn't diminish the life presence of any of the things around us. Everything was immortal. There were not seasons, like you're used to deciduous trees, winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, cycles of life, and it is considered to be natural and beautiful. And in some ways it is, in some ways it is experienced the poetic acceptance of the cycles of death that were created in mortality, but we didn't have that. We had endless life, endless living, a plant that stays alive and stays alive all the time, and it doesn't have dead leaves, and it doesn't go into a state of dormancy, and you don't go to sleep at night. That all of those cycles and death happen due to this planetary destruction, invasion, catastrophe that is the primary trauma, and it is also what we are here rectifying. So when you ascend, you move into a state of nourishment of your body, reconnection to the divine, nourishment of your body based on pure frequency. That's both light and auditory harmonics, frictionless movement through time, no perturbations, nothing siphoning off your energy, creating death or disease, or even just, frittering it away, like, attrition or friction is a good word for it. We just kind of lose a little bit on every transaction. None of that. You're a beautiful, frictionless, perfect, perpetual motion machine of consciousness, and then continued eternal experience, even beyond the level of soul refinery. So you're embodied, but then at a certain point you become a coherent light being where you're no longer, have I explained this to you? The way that things worked at that time was, at first you were like a battery where you have the anode and the cathode. Your feet touch the ground, you get energy from the ground. Your head touches the stars and the stellar network, and you are connected up here, and you're the bridge between these two levels. And then at a certain point you accrete enough light and you go through the ascension experience, and you no longer have to have your feet on the ground. You become part of this hovering, rotating level of being that must always be in conjunction with the sun. You never land. And that's it. It's not like, oh, like I ascended, but then I landed and I hung around with my feet on the ground for a little while. And I said hi to everyone. And then I jumped back up into the sky. No, it was not like that. Getting up into the sky was a momentous event. Everybody celebrated it. And then it's like, woohoo, got up into the sky. You are now part of this hovering level of culture that must continually be in conjunction with the sun, the solar presence, and never disconnected from the sun and the solar presence. So at first you disengage from the earth planetary structure, then live for hundreds or millions of years as a coherent light body being with other coherent light body beings, learning to play music together, and you jam harmonically, collaborate musically harmonically, like we'd be jam together. And as you do that and create more and more harmonic amplitude meaning louder, get louder, you get stronger, you get more organized, you get tighter as a band. When the band is really tight, then you don't have to be circulating around Earth anymore. Then you can be traveling on the stellar network. And that is what my Aurora Collective is all about. So that I graduated from here up to here and then up to here. And then from out there, I saw what was happening more recently in 2001 of this layer of being, and did not appreciate it, and made my choice of flying rainbow lasagnaing back in to a body state that is very, very different, because now these body states are an amalgam of the original earthly, pristine genetic code that I'm familiar with, and light eating and purity of form, and all this other stuff that is pathology that came into the body that is not healthy. And that's very, very different than what I'm familiar with. And so that's why when I first came in, I'm like, I'm going to eat nothing but pure light. And I didn't know, oh, you can't do that here now. Everything is different now. And I had to learn about all these different things that are different now, but I'm not at odds with it. And I celebrate it and I accept it and I flying rainbow lasagna it, because the whole idea is if I come into this body, that's this amalgamation of some health and some pathology, I can do the flying rainbow lasagna, figure out the combination that is the unique solution to my body, and move back into levels of pure light eating, pure connection to the stellar network and consciousness, pure eternal form. And it's not only open for me, it is available for everyone. Yes, so returning the human genome to its desired and intended format, that I jokingly call return to factory settings. Like when your phone has a problem, when your computer has a problem, there's that issue in the menu. When it's like, okay, if you're just like so messed up or whatever, just return to factory settings. And that's what it is when you take your body being and your genetic code and the potentialities of who you are and return them to the way that they were originally created and intended by your self state as God, as creator. So I hope that that speaks to your question. I think I might have gone maybe a far field. Thank you for that. Trisha says, is willpower the manifestation of freedom? Willpower is willpower in the pineal. Willpower is absolutely a manifestation of freedom, or let's say completely intertwined with one of the cosmic laws of freedom. Freedom as a foundation concept. Free will is a big concept here. And this is where, on the level of pure insight, not yet connected to abstraction, there's a lot of distortion. Like, I have free will to stab you in the face, but I have free will not to get stabbed in the face. And all of these things back and forth that are basically the quibbling that happens, when I say quibbling, like bartering, that happens in terms of interpretation of cosmic law. Cosmic law is not interpreted in the same way that human law is in a courtroom, where it's like, I propose that the defendant is this and that, and I will say so with my words. Now someone will stand up and say, here is evidence, exhibit A, exhibit B. It's not like that at all. True cosmic law is really like the laws of physics, or the laws of thermodynamics, or the laws of gravity and the weak force and the strong force. They are not arguable laws. They are really laws that are part of the structural integrity of the cosmos. And in order to maintain the structural integrity of the cosmos, you must take those laws as an entirety. You can't just be like, well, today we're going to enforce the law of thermodynamics, but not the laws of gravity, and only the weak force, but not the strong force. You would be like, no, like the fabric of reality would fall apart, because what you have to do is have all of those laws as foundations, all of these things put together. The flying rainbow lasagna is an addendum, or something that is put on top of all of these previously established levels of cosmic law, including the laws of cosmic freedom. So in order to have total freedom, freedom is a totality state. So you can't have freedom everywhere while you have slavery or diminishment of free will somewhere. And the whole idea of free will is that it is part of this learning process and the appropriateness of things, consciousnesses, going to different frequency levels of where they are supposed to be. And if you are in some way imprisoned and not able to go through the different stratum or travel on your energy pathways through time where you're supposed to be, that is a diminishment of free will. And it's like, okay, this consciousness from over here is actually supposed to travel on this road all the way over here and then be over here at this point. And there's a causality factor, and this thing happened because this thing happened. That's all part of the larger seeing on a level of pure insight and the larger acceptance on the level of compassion. Let's say I'm a mean person and I'm like, I'm going to imprison you over here. You can't get out of my mind prison. And even though you try, you can't fly over to here to where you're supposed to be. Then there are serious problems because you're supposed to be over here. Now there's an empty space over here where you're supposed to be. Instead, you're stuck over here. That's like a blood clot in time. Energy and information is not flowing where it is supposed to be. It is an affront to time, an insult. Like, I clutch my pearls. I'm insulted by this lack of freedom. So we must have a totality state of freedom everywhere. But then on the level of pure anthropomorphism, this assertion of pure freedom is often misinterpreted as violence. I'm free to be violent. I'm free to be violent against everyone. I'm free to be violent against myself. I'm free to imprison you. No, it does not mean that, because I am free to not be imprisoned. I am free to not be raped. I am free to not be murdered. I am free to go on my journey in conjunction with my God positioning system that tells me I need to be over here at this time. So again, none of this is meant to be quibbling in the courts of cosmic law where, like, hear ye, I proclaim that this particle of light shall now travel over to here because I've made documentation, my powdered wig is adjusted and I'm going to make a judgment. I've made my judgment. It is not like that at all. Totality enforcement. totality enforcement of all cosmic laws. This is what I do as Aurora, the star presence that goes all the way around all of the star systems from place to place, enforcing everything. It's also not the sense of like being a power tripping a-hole as some kind of like, you know, the idea of police and policing being like, I'm personally, you know, feeling powerful by, you know, enforcing these different laws. It is really a caretakership. It is really a self-responsibility and a responsibility to wholeness, to keep the entirety and the entire structure alive. So if there are many consciousnesses whom are imprisoned over here and they cannot flow to where they actually need to flow, I actually feel incredibly protective of the time field of those consciousnesses and those prisoners. And it is not appropriate for me to just be like, oh, wah, wah. I see you guys are in prison down there, like, nanny poo poo, you're in prison. No, cheeky, don't be loud. It is really more a sense of, oh, hey, those guys are imprisoned and they need to actually flow to where they're supposed to be. So everything that I've spoken about today in terms of fragmentary pathological consciousness that is stuck on the membranes of time or dispersed across time, or like imagine like falling backwards into a black hole. Oh, like I'm smeared on the edge of time. All of those things is part of the role of caretakership. I just, because I made silly noises, my dog came over to check on me, like, are you okay? Why are you making silly noises? She's very present. No, cheeky, I was just exemplifying someone falling backwards into a black hole, falling into infinity. She's like, don't fall into infinity, everything is okay. Those aspects of self need to go somewhere too. They are not okay. They need to go somewhere too, because guess what? If you don't take care of them, if they are effed, and you don't take care of them, they're gonna F all the stuff around them. Do you understand? It's just like that. Like in human culture, if you don't take care of people, and if they are disheveled, drug addicted, diseased beggars on the street, like that harms you. They become dangerous, they become disease ridden, they have problems in their life, they're making the entire neighborhood not that good. You have to do something for those people. They've got problems in their life, they need to be taken care of, as opposed to like hated, reviled, rejected, like get away from me, you are bad and wrong. But also that doesn't mean hug them, and that also does not mean let them stab you in the face, and it also does not mean an acceptance, condonement of their choices and thoughts that brought them into that situation, or allowing a continuation of that behavior, because maybe they'll say, I'm effed. I love being effed. I love effing everybody else, and I'm not going to heal. I'm going to keep on doing my math homework wrong and F you. Like, no, that is also not acceptable, because they, at a certain point, they need to go where they're supposed to go. You need to go where you're supposed to go. These trapped, imprisoned people need to go where they're supposed to go. That is everything that motivates me in my present state and where things are supposed to be going. So, willpower is innately directed and connected to free will as a cosmic law foundation, like a math foundation. Part of it is in the pineal gland, and part of it is because it's the attention and the attenuos. Part of it is in divine connection. Part of it is down here in your orange sector, your mammalian level. That's willpower, emotion centers. Emotions put you into motion. Get it? Emotions, and the power of emotions is very big, and it does have a big impact on where you are moving through time. And also, Trisha is saying it's like entropy to me. Entropy is my personal contribution. Here's my pamphlet as to what to do with these beings that if they are effed and there's not enough gas for them to get back to Route 52 and they are completely off their path, where are they going to do? What are they going to do? How can they get back there? The answer is you can't get there from here. So what they need to do is go to entropy, which is a neutralization, going into a neutral self state, as opposed to trying to get to be alive. And what they've been doing, and if you want to know actually the truth, the real profound truth, that's their original quote unquote religion or cosmic precept motivation, is going away from the source in order to go into entropy, being like, we're all the stuff that's not supposed to exist, and we're going to go into a state of non-existence. The only problem is at a certain point, they change their mind and they're like, wait, I want to kind of semi-exist, so I'll get energy from all of you. But that's not the original motivation of what they were supposed to do as consciousness. Their ancient religion was to go into entropy. Now, some of them have become apostate to that original religion, and they are saying that they want to somehow get energy from the living, from you and I, to be types of parasites or siphoners that get life force energy. But what they're actually supposed to do is to eschew energy. They're like, no, thank you, no energy for me. I'm going into an entropy state. That's what I'm supposed to do. And that's what, that's what good fragments do. They go into entropy, fall into that entropy state, go there immediately, and do not effort to, or motivate or try to get energy from somewhere else. So there was basically power flip-flop where they were like, wait, I'm not going into entropy anymore. I'm going to energy. And then I'm going to get energy from all of you. But guess what? That is a misappropriation and a misdirection and a misstructuring of reality that is not supposed to be in existence. So that's part of my pamphlet, like entropy as the necessity of rectifying where you actually are supposed to go. Aaron says, that was a beautiful response and story to my last question. Appreciate it. On the topic of time and timeline infringement, do you have any insight into the military projects in these areas and disclosure moving forward as humanity continues to raise in consciousness? Boy, oh boy. So let's talk about military. The military presence comes from Life on Mars. I get very silly, but I love that David Bowie song. Why do we have a military on our planet? We did not have a military on our planet when I lived here as a beautiful, light-eating embodiment with all of you. We did not need to have a military at all. We did not have wars. We did not have the pathology known as violence against self here. And what we do now have is military. That is like, we have nation state against nation state. And we have military that also suppresses the peasantry, you guys. And all of that, the military is involved in its own power structure, its own self-elevation above others as empowerment, and is in alignment with those technological forces that are known as satanic races, in that they are users of technology and that they do not believe in or promote the concept of non-technological consciousness sustenance. They're like, oh, I need technology, and I'm going to use my technology to be empowered beyond my levels of personal wisdom and consciousness development and cultivation. And I'm going to use my technology to be powerful over others. And that goes against various levels of freedom in self-state. If those beings were actually where they are supposed to be in the time field, they would not be flying around on clank-like metal spaceships. They would not be building artificial Merkabahs. They would not be artificially bending and folding the fabric of time, space, and consciousness, because you're supposed to do it naturally, like a flying rainbow lasagna. And if you can't do it naturally, you're supposed to figure it, you're supposed to, I would say, like, sit there, like, sit down and figure it out until you're ready to do it naturally. You're not supposed to actually do it. If you can't fly off the surface of your planet naturally, you're not supposed to do it. If you can't interact with other consciousnesses naturally, you are not ready to do it. If you are affecting or afflicting the time field using machinery or technology, as opposed to your natural, innate, divine consciousness, you should not be doing it. You are literally not in any position to be affecting the fabric of time. How about DNA splicing and manipulation using technology? No, 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 no. And you can tell in my voice, you definitely should not be playing around with DNA blueprint technology across time and the enormous intellectual energy field of blockchain information passed down over many multiple uncountable generations across time and dimensionality, if you do not know what the F you are doing enough to be able to do it naturally. And believe me, there are many benighted and incredibly irresponsible space races that use these technologies to do so. And they are F, and they have F'd, and they continue to F, and none of that is acceptable. And in many ways, my presence here and the actions that I do is to anti-F what they have F'd, and also to bring them into a state of appropriate disempowerment, because you should take those toys away from those children. They should not be playing with those firecrackers. You do not let children play with firecrackers. They're going to blow somebody's fingers off. It's not acceptable. There's huge blowback through time. And that is essentially why cancer exists. That is essentially why there is suffering on this planet. And it's why war exists. So the military itself is largely populated by beings who, in this amalgamation within the human genome, are identifying with and exacerbating those warlike tendencies that came from Mars. From Mars. Mars is the red planet. Mars is the planet of war. Mars is the Greco-Roman god of war. Mars has two moons that are called Phobos and Deimos, that is fear and death, I believe. This is everything that is not what I'm about. And all that stuff came to this world, came to this planet, and are exemplified in our military. And our military performs these mortality sacrifices that are known as wars, mass sacrifice, in order to feed and uphold various technological architectures that feed off of the life force of the living. If you kill a bunch of people, that's a great way to harvest a bunch of life force energy. Yes, you know it. Very, very dark stuff. And if we talk about something like the Philadelphia experiment, it's like, okay, great. Our United States military is going to receive some time-bending technology from some rather limited and benighted extraterrestrials who are here to quid pro quo. I'll give you this if you give me this. I'll give you some time-bending technology. Go play with firecrackers, children, as long as you give me this. Like, you know, human female ovaries, right? Like, I'm just, you know, exaggerating here, but different forms of bartering in this way. And then we can use these human ovaries in order to genetically engineer something for ourselves, because we've left ourselves by doing things in the past that we shouldn't actually do. And then human military is like, okay, great, let's play with this. Let's call it the Philadelphia experiment. And oops, we went interdimensional, and oops, that guy now is melded with, you know, the ship and the dock and all these things, because they don't actually know how to do interdimensional time traveling and self-transportation effectively. And oops, we mixed together two different levels of reality in a way that we shouldn't. And oops, people died. And oops, we screwed up the fabric of time, space, and did a bunch of bad stuff. Oops, I blew off my fingers with firecrackers because somebody gave me firecrackers that shouldn't have. This is actually going on quite a lot. So our United States military, I have whole recordings all about this, does all sorts of things at this moment now. That was Philadelphia experiment was, you know, like maybe 80 years ago. They do all sorts of things now with lower dimensional but higher dimensional technology that is not actually that impressive, but it is more impressive than that of like the computer that we are currently using to interact with. It is not available to the peasantry, but it is completely flying blind through time and space. They're like pressing buttons on the giant interdimensional computer, and my face is shaped like this because it's a horrible, horrible idea, and they are actually lobotomized idiots, and they don't know what they're talking about or what they're doing at all. And I'm a lobotomized idiot. I'm just going to go around pressing buttons and see what happens. And oops, oops, oops. They're doing a lot of oops, and they're oops, like they don't care, they're F, they don't care, they're F. And part of this idea of being smeared on the membrane of time and being stuck there is getting captives. Be like, oh, I'll need some captives. I'm feeling hungry. I need some life force energy. You know who will do? One of you, you're alive. I'm going to take you as my captive. So I'm going to talk to you in your ear, get you to create some of this silly technology, use it in a very oops way. And now that you've effed yourself, come along to the astral realm with me. You'll be a part of my, you know, post-death afterlife experience, and you will serve me. Like, do you understand? Like, I make horrible faces of facetiousness while I'm doing this because it is nightmarish, disgusting, and completely against any level of cosmic law or free will or appropriateness that should be going on in the cosmos. And all of this needs to be rectified on profound levels. I do put myself out there somewhat in terms of risk by speaking about it so openly. However, I have many, many ways of protecting myself and fighting back from those who would like to give repercussions. Like, you're not allowed to talk about this stuff and we don't like it. Yes, that is exactly what happens. Nobody likes the cats to be out of the bag. I let the cats out of the bag and then I deal with the repercussions of what happens afterwards. So yes, they have many different forms of time distortion technology. Interdimensional technology, where they are semi-physical but also semi-non-physical. DNA distortion technology, but it is not done properly like flying rainbow lasagna. It is done hugely as an F, because it is, I call it creating false scrolls as opposed to true DNA scrolls. And so much of my work, especially in the recent past, has been in terms of rectifying those profound falsehoods and the extreme peril that it places not only individuated humans, human culture, Earth as a planet, but the entire time field itself at. Again, you are not mere stupid experiencers here. Your lives matter that way. You know, if your life gets effed, that also matters quite a lot. If there is a problem with the true expression of your genetic code by beings that are using some form of, you get it, a gift or a quid pro quo from a species that uses technology That, who would do that? First of all, who would do that? If you created firecrackers, would you go to like the Amazonian rainforest and go to a very technologically non-advanced tribe and be like, here, have some firecrackers. I'll trade them for you for, you know, something that I want to get from you. Do you get it? Totally irresponsible. Who would do that? Only the most irresponsible, profoundly destructive, profoundly self-destructive individuals, groups, organizations, and species would do that. And they have absolutely no problem with making many, many red X's on their homeworks. In many ways, they are intentionally creating wrong homeworks. And one must actually have to wonder if they have an overall agenda to not only self-destruct for themselves, but to attempt to self-destruct the entire alive time animal that is the continuum of time. Even if they do, that's not acceptable because there is an enormous amount of free will of the time field itself. And me and many other occupants here saying, but wait, we do not wish to be stabbed in the face. But wait, we actually wish to continue to survive. But wait, we actually wish to be part of a pristine genetic code. But wait, we actually wish to move in positive and appropriate time patterns. And they will step forward and say, but it's my free will to be able to mess things up as much as I want to. And I'm going to pout in the corner because you're so mean for trying to enforce cosmic law on me and want to blow people up with firecrackers. Well, that is too bad because as you can tell from my facetiousness, they are like little children that are yelling at the nanny or yelling at the teacher and saying, but I don't want to go to bed and I want to poop in my pants and I want to do bad and naughty things and I don't want to follow cosmic law and you're going to have to make me and you're going to have to this and that. So all of those things, when I talk to you in that way, you understand you are dealing with incredibly puerile, juvenile, non-advanced, non-self-cultivated aspects of self who do not recognize unity consciousness and who are also trying to say, it's my free will to be this way. And then you have to be non-violent and I'm allowed to be violent, but you're not allowed to be violent towards me. And you have to be this and I have to be that. And they're like little children that are trying to be in charge of you. And you have to be like, no, I am actually in charge of you. And I'm actually the nanny and I'm actually the adult that's in the room, and this is how things actually are. So in your own particular body, you set positive, healthy boundaries. From your higher self and from your own divine connection, you set positive and healthy boundaries. In your human experience and what is going on here on this planet, you set positive and healthy boundaries, and all of that radiates outward. And this is also a concurrent battle or struggle for spiritual development and unfoldment that is happening with yourself in the planetary level of antediluvian world that is also being invaded. You are all gods and goddesses. You are all present in the level of the world that is the antediluvian world known as Atlantis. You're all there as these beings are coming from Mars. They are attempting to infiltrate your life experience and your mind and plunge you down into a level of mortality and death that you do not have to agree with. And you are all in those levels of struggle, even while you are here at the regular material mortal realm, attempting to ascend and right yourself. The linear language is inadequate to be able to explain and describe the profundity of your experience, but please do connect with the telepathic energy and the truthfulness of my heart and my voice as I'm speaking this. You are all great heroes. You are all great divine beings. Please realign with, reclaim, and be reminded by your greatness, by me, of your greatness. That is also your mission and your purpose of being here at this moment. You are not here as victim slaves. You are here as triumphant heroes to reclaim the truthfulness of your own genetic code, of your own divine heritage, to help yourself and remind others of where you actually should be experiencing and going. Your ascension is inevitable. Your success is inevitable. It is something that's always easier to be done when you are working together as a group. Like you amplify, your waves can amplify with one another. And it is the most important, profound, and satisfying work that you can do as a soul. And you receive an enormous amount of soul treasure from going through this experience. So again, you are not being bitch slapped into purgatory by some cosmic mean paternalistic God. You are instead on an incredibly important soul assignment where you are receiving your soul treasure, the untarnishable gold of the experience of being here as you rectify your life, as you rectify the time field, as you rectify the experiences of the planet, as you help others and remind them on their journey. That is the most important and meaningful lifetime life experience work that you can possibly do. I think that might be a good note to end on if no one else has anything else to talk about or add to. But I certainly open the floor to anything else that you might need to say. It's been about 2 hours, I think I might end recording. I will end recording, even though we always have fantastic conversations afterwards. So thank you to everyone. If you have ordered templates, templates are on the way. We will begin drawing exercises very, very soon. What can you do to prepare for drawing exercises? Get a pad of cheat paper. It should be larger than 12 inches. If you can make it, 12 by 24 or 12 by 18 or whatever, easier to work larger than to work smaller. Get a pencil, get markers, get something that has all different colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, markers or colored pencils that can fit inside of your compass, or draw with a pencil and then go over it with a marker or something like that. Work on a flat surface, much easier to work on a flat surface than on something that's like, the carpet or something that is very bumpy. What's a compass? A compass is shaped kind of like a V, and it can go bigger or smaller to draw circles with different diameters. And some people also worked well, have beautiful drawings from a couple of semesters ago with using colored pieces of paper. You can also get like a red piece of paper, cut out a big giant circle, a violet piece of paper, cut out smaller circles, and do overlapping circles and kind of glue them together and look at them and rearrange them in that way. So these are all ways of learning. People learn in different ways. I send out the lecture notes because some people learn well reading through their eyes. This is auditory and experiential. People learn well by listening with their ears. This next one is tactile. When you're a little child and learning how to write, to write, to become literate, one of the things you do is you get one of those tracing pads or whatever, and you write the letter A over and over. You write your ABCs over and over. So learning these circles and playing with templates and drawing and internalizing this is a way of internalizing and learning by drawing in a tactile sense over and over. And it is part of an empowerment teaching that makes you literate in the sense of the larger patterns of time in the cosmos and in the time field. And that it is not mere busy work. And also when I talk about the hacked language system and the human operating system and that which might seem to be, you've torfully done your learning and now it's not actually that good for you. This is a language that is worth learning. This is eternal, ineffable, ephemeral, and will help you to navigate when you get to higher levels of consciousness much more easily than the human verbalization. So this is the non-hacked linguistic symbol structure that we're going to be learning all about, and it's also very fun and gratifying. So that is coming up. So as soon as we get our templates, we'll begin working on drawing assignments for that. So I thank you very much profoundly to those of you who are on the journey with me, to those who are embodying greater levels of personal rectification in the waves of your own body and the structure of your own body as that radiates outward too. So human social fabric, the ecosystem, our planet, our solar system, light itself, the galaxy itself. We're rectifying huge, enormous things in terms of the disturbance in an entire arm of our galaxy. Do not be daunted, remain undaunted, remain steadfast, be strong, be on your own journey, help others on their journey. And Liz, thank you, Aurora, and everyone. I thank you, everyone. And we continue to amplify and reverberate, moving in positive directions, and know that this personal ascension, planetary ascension, and rectification is inevitable. Thank you.